Lui, c'est Goldberg, un animateur légendaire des studios Disney. Il était l'un des invités d'honneur du festival du film d'animation d'Annecy, donc on lui a demandé qu'il nous apprenne à dessiner les personnages cultes sur lesquels il a travaillé, du génie d'Aladin à Dingo, en passant par Philoctète et plus encore.
When I do the genie, I start with his nose, and then everything kind of springs out from there. So then I would go ahead and do his eyes. I would go ahead and start making his mouth. His nose actually overlaps his mouth. Now, even though this is kind of a caricature of Robin Williams, Robin's nose didn't overlap his mouth. And then I would go ahead and build out the rest of his details. So it would be his eyebrows. And then I would go ahead and make his skull, connect to the ears, draw his cheeks, go ahead and make his big chin, which has a beard around it, which ends in a little curlicue, like so. His neck coming down behind his far ear, and he's got a top knot connected by this little round piece here. Philoctètes, or Phil for short. On him, I do start with the cranium. So I will make a little bit of his cranium there, and then his jowls. His nose, which I would do next, is actually like an upside down top of a Greek column. And then I would go ahead and put in these two lines coming up from his nose. And Gerald Scarfe was actually our production designer on Hercules. And I was trying to get a lot of the Scarfisms into my drawing. So I would use these kind of crossed lines here. Those would be his eyebrows. Usually he had a pretty grouchy expression. In actual fact, I thought a lot about Grumpy when I was animating him. Then you'd go ahead and make his lip stick out here. Now, astute observers may have noticed that his ears are very similar to the genie's. A little pointier than the genie's, but still in the same family. And then I would go ahead and make his beard around the outside. But he has a furrier beard than the genie. And of course, he's part goat, so we need to make antlers on him, one on this side and one on this side. Just as a nod towards Greek design, he had his hair coming back over here, and then we would put these lines and then a few hairs up here and the ear on the other side, and there he is. So doing Rabbit, this is not a design I created. The rabbit existed before I ever animated the character. In fact, my good friend Bernie Mattinson, who just passed away, animated Rabbit in some of the original Winnie the Pooh films. So he's got a little bit of a goatee here, round nose, and then I would go ahead and make his cranium here. And these jowls would come out a little bit. You put some fur. Rabbit definitely had what I would call Disney eyes, where he had an eyelash on the top, which was very much what they would do in the 1960s. Eyeballs here. I'm making a very benign rabbit right now. He had very furry eyebrows, few hairs on top, and ears that came out like these were a little pointier than your average rabbit ears. And then go ahead and make his whiskers and fur. He had a very skinny neck. I'll go ahead and draw Percy, who was actually animated in Pocahontas by Chris Buck, who is now one of our famous directors of the Frozen films. So I'm drawing his muzzle first. He had some kind of angular design to him, so his cheeks would come out like this. His eyes, he had a kind of a mask shape, and he had a big dog brow on top.
As a director, you drew less than when you were an animator, right?
It's very true. There's only so much time you can have making these films. So yeah, I animated a lot less on Pocahontas, but you know, I try and get in as much animation as I can, even if I'm directing, because I like it too much. He would have his collar, which had a little bell. Well, if you want Goofy, I'll give you Goofy. There's long been a debate about whether Goofy is a dog or whether Goofy is a man. I come down purely on the side that Goofy is a dog, because if you look, I'm drawing him very lightly now, and I'm drawing his muzzle, and then coming back to the smile here. And the reason I think he is a dog and not a man is because before I put on the rest of the details here, that's Pluto.
That's actually really Pluto.
It's absolutely, it's Pluto. In my mind, he is absolutely a dog. In fact, his original name was Dippy Dog. So now to goofy him up, you put in the buck teeth, you go ahead and you put in these brows, a big kind of floppy mouth on the bottom. One thing that made Goofy Goofy is, you know, he was a bit of a hick. So he has a kind of hick hillbilly chin under that lip there.
Yeah.
And 3 hairs here. And then, of course, his hat. I loved animating Goofy.
Yeah.
Goofy's so much fun. Well, he's one of the loosest characters in the Disney canon. And if you're really a Goofy aficionado, you would put 2 hairs off of each of the ears.
Konbini!